Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode 70, and we've got a special show for you today. The best part of this show is Mr. Jason Robertson, our co-host, is back from vacation for the last 2 weeks. I know y'all haven't noticed it because we did a bunch of extra work to make sure that we had shows to still put out, but welcome back this week. How are you doing, bud?
Man, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. It's kind of strange being away from this microphone for a couple of weeks, but it's good to be back and be back in the swing of things. And unfortunately, I wish that I could say I just sat back and relaxed and didn't do a single bit of work for 2 weeks, but that's not true. So, but you held down the fort for me while I was gone.
Well, a couple of things before we get into the show, because this week we got a lot to run down. But if you are listening to us on iTunes, please go and give us a good ranking on iTunes. Now, I'm not all familiar with how it works, but I knew you can go in and give us, a 5-star rating, leave reviews on it. It really helps our ranking and getting our information and our show out there more. So if you're on iTunes, please go ahead and give us a ranking on there. Also, after the review of the Thermion XP50, which we're talking about in a little bit, tune in towards the end of the show and we'll talk about Jason's trip to New Mexico. And he towed his Kawasaki. No, it's not his Kawasaki. His Polaris Ranger up there. And let's see if he made it all the way up there without the roof blowing off of that thing. But check back in for that.
Oh, man. Hey, folks, I tell you what, we do have a great show, and we want to get right into it because this is a very important show. This is one of our biggest reviews of the year, of 2019. I don't know that there's going to be many other scope reviews that are more important than this one. It is one of the most anticipated scopes of the year, and that is the Pulsar Thermion XP50. I'm trying to hold it up here for the people that are watching on YouTube. I'll show you a little more about that later. Now, listen, I know some of y'all that tune in every week, you've heard us talk a lot about the other model Thermions, the XM38, XM50s. So listen, some of this may be redundant to you. You may know all about the Thermions already, but we're going to just go ahead and break this thing down fully, talk about the features that the XP50 Thermion does have, which a lot of those it shares with the other Thermion models. And then we're even going to get into, I know something that's a big question that people have is, how does this compare to the Pulsar Trail XP50? So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show as well. But just going over the basic specs of the Thermion XP50, it is a 2-power base magnification, and that is something that is a little bit different than the Trail, but again, we'll get into that more. So 2-power base magnification. It does have internal video recording. The audio, as of this recording, which is September, the first week in September 2019, the audio is not enabled on these scopes. There is a microphone. Pulsar will get the audio working and will allow us to turn the audio on with a firmware update. Same thing happened with the Trails. They just have some issues getting it synced up. They're gonna, with the video, they're gonna get that fixed. And again, so that will be coming. There will be audio. So you have video, audio coming. You can take still images with the with the unit as well. It has a new internal battery system. So what we've got on the Thermion is a dual battery system. You've got one battery inside the scope that cannot be removed by the user. It can be serviced by Pulsar, and it is an APS-3 battery. And that is one of the standard batteries that Pulsar is using now for the Thermions and the Axions. And that battery is on the inside of the scope, again, non-removable. To charge that, you just plug in a USB cable to the side of the scope, and it charges it right up. And you're looking at about 3 hours and 50 minutes on that battery, and that's kind of a best case scenario. That's just turning it on and leaving it running. That's not cold weather, not video recording. That's not turning it off and on 50 times. That was from a test that I did of literally turning the unit on and just setting a stopwatch and watching it. So almost 4 hours, I think, in the field. I think it's going to be very safe to say you can get somewhere between 3 to 3.5 hours on that internal battery. But there's also a secondary battery, and that is under what looks like a scope turret up on the top. And you remove that turret, there's a plastic cap, and there's another battery. And the Thermions come with an APS-2 battery, and that's a little bit of a shorter, smaller battery. And it's already there with the scope. And that battery, you're going to be looking at about 2 hours and 15 to 20 minutes off of that. Again, that's, best case scenario, sitting inside. So, I think a couple hours in the field is going to be reasonable on that. So out of the box, you're going to be looking at about 5 to 5.5 hours, give or take, with the battery life. Now, there is an option. If you would like, you can buy one of the APS-3 batteries, and you can put it in that top removable slot. It takes a little bit of a taller turret cap cover, and it does come in the box with the scope. So you have the ability to use either cover you want right out of the box. You just have to buy the APS-3 larger battery if you want it. And moving along, the design is, as you can see, it's just in a standard 30 millimeter scope, tube system. It looks very much like a traditional rifle scope. If you put this on your rifle and set it up and, somebody was across the room, they would not notice that this was a thermal scope. Not until they got closer to it and really looked. They still wouldn't know it'd be a thermal. They just know something looked a little bit different, but you got to get close to see it. One thing Hans and I have talked about, and I'm sure we'll mention a little bit more with the Thermions, is how much we're surprisingly really do like the fact of the way that it's well balanced on the rifle. It feels very, very good, and it's something that I think you'll be surprised how well it feels on the rifle. The XP50 obviously does have a front focus adjustment there on the objective lens, and it also has a rear eyepiece or a diopter focus where you can focus the screen to your eye. One thing I get a lot of questions about is do they have rubber eye cups? And they do. They have a really ingenious rubber eye cup system where it fits on, and it's also magnetic, so it kind of really locks in there, but it's easy to take off and on. I think Hans and I both have been running them without the eye cup, which is strange for both of us because we always run eye cups. But right. I think on the Thermion, we both really like the way that the eye relief is. We've been running them without them. And so it is an option, though. It's in the box. And so, again, that's just kind of the basic specs of the XP50. Mm-hmm. It is a 640 by 480 thermal core sensor at 17 microns. And it does have the AMOLED display, which is, pretty much what everybody's come to expect out of the Pulsars. It's this just like the other units. It is capable of fully waterproof, submersible, 30 minutes, 3 foot of water. No issues there, and it is rated for up to a 375 H&H.
Mm-hmm. Well, so thank you, Jason, for that brief rundown of the specs. That is the briefest rundown you've ever done of any scope and of the specs of any scope. So
I think it only took about 8 minutes, and that was brief.
Exactly, and half of that was just on the battery situation. So good job there. Good, nice job.
Well, but I guarantee you, I'm going to think of like 8 things that I forgot.
I know that you missed. So Jason, a lot of people, as you know, that call in. First thing they want to know is what are the differences between the Trail XP50 and the Thermion? Because if you're taking like a 20,000 foot view of both scopes, there does seem like a lot of similarities other than the look of the scope. They're both 640 resolution. They're both 17 microns, 50 hertz refresh rate. So if you're looking at just those internal core metrics, those numbers are very similar or exactly the same. But we're going to break down the differences a little bit further down than that. Obviously, the look of both of the scopes are completely different. Some people are big fans of the new look and design of the Thermion scope, and I know Jason's probably holding these up right now as I'm talking. So the look, as Jason said, the look of the Thermion of a more traditional rifle scope. Some people, like myself, were not like the look of the Trails and didn't know if they were going to like the look of the Thermion. Turns out that I do like the look of the Thermion better than I did the Trail. But there's some people that are traditional people and they say, you know what, I love the Trail look. And that's, I had a guy call last week and said, I'm going to pay $5,000. I want it to look different than a daytime rifle scope. So, he wanted it to look like a big camera on top of the top of the rifle. So, to each his own. But I really do like the look of the new Thermion. The balance is perfect on the rifle. The eye relief is perfect. It just feels a lot more natural when you're shooting, and does feel great. Looks great, feels great, all of the above. The mounting situation obviously is different, with the 30 millimeter standard rings that you can use on the Thermion. Outdoor Legacy Gear is now selling the American Defense Manufacturing one-piece QD mount, so you need to go check that out. You need to go pick it up. If you're ordering a Thermion, or if you have one on, if you're waiting for one, go pick up that American Defense Manufacturing one-piece cantilever QD mount from Outdoor Legacy Gear. I love it, and that's what I've been using ever since.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that real quick. Without, we have talked about that mount. It's the real deal, guys. This is a high-end, American-made, American-designed mount. Hans and I looked at a lot of different mounts, a lot of different rings, different setups. This is the one that we chose, and the one we chose to bring in. I understand you may have something you like, your own personal preference, a brand, super, and that's just fine. But if you don't have anything, I highly suggest this American Defense. It is a lifetime guarantee. It is a guaranteed return to zero mount. This is a high-end mount. This is not a cheap Chinese mount. This is the real deal, made here in the USA. So anyway, if you're looking for one, we do have them.
Right, exactly. So yeah, go check that out. So the other differences, like Jason talked about, the magnifications, the Trail XP50 started out on 1.6. The Thermion starts out on a 2 power and goes up to 16 power. Slight difference, not a huge difference. Maybe slightly noticeable, but not too bad. The battery situation, I do believe that the Trail one-piece battery pack does get more runtime than the Thermion, slightly more. Not a lot more, but it does gives you a little bit more battery life in that one bigger battery pack. But the Thermion batteries set up just like Jason said, so those are the differences with the one internal battery and the one removable battery on top. You can charge the whole thing just by charging it into the side of the scope. There's a spot to put a USB cord that goes into the wall. You can charge both batteries at the same time. The mounting options, I'm kind of skipping back and forth here, but the mounting options, with the flexibility of the 30 millimeter rings on the Thermion, is going to allow, and it's bringing more people into thermal hunting. There's a lot of people out there that hunt with bolt action rifles, or they're in a state that they're only allowed to hunt with a bolt action rifle, and now they're having the ability and get the ability to jump into the thermal hunting frenzy that everybody else has gotten into here for the last couple of years. But now, they're getting to hunt with their bolt action rifles with the Thermion. And I've spoken with a lot of people that have called in and said, this is their first thermal and it's going on a bolt action rifle. And so that's a big change. The Thermion has 8 color palettes now. That's 6 brand new ones. And then you still have the traditional white hot and black hot. If you check out my YouTube channel, Hans ETX, I just put out a video, hog drops, with all 8 of the brand new Pulsar Thermion color palettes. So I'll tell you, that was not an easy thing to do, but I made it through it, and it was tough. I was telling people on the video, Jason, that my favorite. Obviously, my favorite color palettes are the white hot and black hot, but my third favorite was like the red monochrome because it was pretty easy on the eye. But the one I did not like the most was the rainbow.
Oh, it's terrible.
Because it was, yeah, because I said I'm slightly colorblind. So all of the blues, greens, and yellows are the colors that I have the worst with when I'm, with my color blindedness or whatever you want to call it. It just all meshes together. So it's just like one big blob. But so yeah, it's got multiple color palettes on it versus the Trail, which just has the white hot and the black hot.
I'm going to interject one thing right here that Hans is talking about. The only other thing, and he may be going to mention this, so I may be stealing his thunder, because the Thermion has a color display. It can, it does have these color palettes, but it also gives you the option of changing the crosshair or the reticle colors, which that's something that I don't care about the color palettes. I think you're going to find out, if you buy one of these, that you don't either. Black hot and white hot is all that anybody that really hunts uses. The other palettes are just kind of fun to play with, but being able to change the crosshair colors from white or black to different colors can be very helpful.
Yeah. So on the Trail XP50, I always just ran with the white crosshairs, but now I'm feeling a little bit more fancier with the Thermion XP50, so I've got a neon green reticle going on. What color are you going with these days?
I like the green, and there's one I really wanted a aqua blue. It's something that Fleer has, but they have a purple that is. I know it sounds. I know. I knew as soon as I said it was going to be. But it looks kind of blue. So I've been running either the green or this kind of light purple, and I really, it just makes that crosshair pop off the screen, and I really, really like it. And I know a lot of people would be like, you got to be kidding me, just give me a black or white, and that's fine. But I'm telling you, I've talked to a lot of people over the years that is a feature they love about the FLIR thermosites. And so I think a lot of people are really going to see some benefit of getting a different, and everybody's eye is different. Some people, people like red. I really don't like the red, but it's against each their own. So just check them out. It's a nice feature though.
Yeah, they look good on the videos too, the color reticles. So
they do.
Rounding out the differences, the Thermion has twice as much internal memory for video and photo storage that the Trail does. So there's twice as much memory. I don't remember what off the top of my head how much memory the Trail had, but whatever the Trail has, multiply that by 2, and that's what the Thermion has. And the Thermion has a larger display, a larger or higher resolution display screen. It's got a 1024 by 768 versus the Trail resolution on the display screens is 640 by 480. In my opinion, and I know Jason said the same thing on previous episodes, it feels like the Thermion has a larger display screen in our own opinion. That's not a scientific study, but it does have an impression. It does have a larger viewfinder screen, and which obviously I feel like I'm not going to say it produces a better image, but it does produce a bigger image, which helps when you're lining up taking shots or scanning and all that kind of stuff. It just makes it look better, in my opinion. So, like I said, it's not scientific, but yeah, that's rounding out the differences. Even though it does, some of the specs are exactly the same. There are some differences once you do dive into them, and these differences are so important that it's causing people to get into thermal hunting for the first time, and that's the exciting part of the whole this whole Thermion craze.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to say that just kind of finishing up with what Hans was talking about on the display screens. There's no question that the Thermion display looks larger than the Trail. I mean, I put them side by side right here before we started the show, and it definitely appears larger to the eye. Whether it's physically larger or whether it's the difference in the eyepiece, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It looks bigger to you. And Hans said he didn't know. He wasn't sure that it looked better. What I will say is that the XP50 Thermion produces to the eyepiece a slightly better image than the Trail XP50 does. I don't. Now, listen, we want to be clear here. These have the exact same thermal core. So
Exactly, yeah.
unlike the XM versus XQ models where they went from a 17 micron down to a 12 micron thermal core, which 12 is better than 17. The lower the number, the better. This is the exact same thermal core. It's the same EULA 640 by 640 by 480, 17 micron. So in reality, they should produce the exact same image, but there is something different when you look through it. And again, it is. I keep saying this, and maybe this isn't even the right word, but I say it's an incremental upgrade. I mean, it's a little step. I think it's slightly better, but I don't think it makes you want to throw your Trail XP50 away. And I don't think it's so good that you say, well, you should never buy a Trail. I just think it's slightly better looking through the eyepiece.
I will say this, and I think this is a fact, and they've even promoted this as fact, but the videos that are being produced by the Thermions, that when you take them off your scope, put them on your computer, the video quality is much better. I will say that. It's no doubt about it. I mean, it is a better. It looks, the videos that are coming off the Thermion now look more like what you're seeing through the scope than the Trail models did, because the Trail model scopes, although it looked great through the eyepiece, you get the video and it'd be like 2 or 3 times darker than the image that you saw. It was not as good as the Thermions, and the videos that we're seeing across social media right now with the Thermions look great. They look really good.
Yeah, I agree. And so what I want to say is this. I mean, there's so much to say about the scope, and generally, I think it's an amazing scope. This is before the show tonight. I was outside looking again at the Thermion XP50, and last night I spent a bunch of time outside with the Trail XP50 and the Thermion side by side. I was looking at deer, looking at cows. I was really checking it out, just side by side, comparing again, because I knew we were going to do this show tonight. I was coming up and looking more with this Thermion. And I'm going to tell you, I know it's $5,000. Okay, I know that's not cheap, but there's a lot of scope packed into here. I mean, there's a lot of value for $5,000. And I know it's not like a salesman there, but I was just thinking about, compare this to the Envision Halo or one of the Trigicons. Again, great scopes. And I'm not going to say that the Trail or the Thermion XP50 image quality is on par with those. It's not. Those BAE 12 micron 640 cores produce the most amazing thermal image that is available to the consumers. But golly, for $2,500 less, this Trail XP50, I'm sorry, Thermion, well, both of them, the Thermion XP50, it is great. It is a really, I mean, I'm serious. I'm just thinking about, plus all the things you're getting, battery packs, video recording, smartphone apps. That's something we didn't even mention. It's the Thermion still has the Stream Vision. So you got the smartphone app. You can, live stream to your phone as long as you're within, a few feet away, or an iPad or some kind of tablet if you got somebody with you that wants to watch it. So there's a lot of value here.
I tell a lot of people all the time, and there's no doubt Trigicon, Envision, like you mentioned, great thermal image, better than the Pulsar XP50. But when people call up and they ask my opinion, just like what you said, there's so much packed into the Thermion and the Trail XP50s with the internal video recording, all the other intangible items that some of the other scopes don't have. But the picture image, in my opinion, a Trigicon picture image is not $3,000 better than a Thermion picture image. And and with all the stuff that you get with the Thermion or the Trail, I mean, gosh, that's where Pulsar, and we talk a lot about Pulsar, and we're not going to apologize for it. No. We've talked about it in the past, but they make great products and they've got great customer service, 3-year warranty. Some of the best customer service in the business. There are other companies out there. We know Trigicon has good customer service, Envision as well. But they have figured out a way to provide a great quality scope at a very fair price with a lot of features that a lot of the scopes aren't able to put in there or not doing. And that's why they sell a ton of them. And that's why we get
true.
Yeah.
And listen, folks, I mean, we're not here to bash Envision and Trigicon. We stock them and sell them, okay? I'm not against them. I mean, we own them, we use them, but there's just a lot of value here. And again, I know some guys are listening to this going, it's $5,000. Oh, I get that. I'm not comparing this to a $2,500 scope or $3,500. We're comparing this to a $7,500 scope.
There's
to
a lot of people
$9,000 scope. You know?
There's a lot of people out there that say, well, you know what? I don't care about having a video recorder. And my answer to that is, what if you're out there in the woods by yourself and you see Bigfoot?
I knew you were going to say that.
And you can't get, I say it all the time. You see Bigfoot and you can't get a video of it because your scope doesn't record video. I mean, what are you going to do then? Just nobody wants to hear another story of somebody that saw Bigfoot with no video.
Hey, y'all stick around to after we get with this review because I've got to mention something about Bigfoot. Okay, so
don't tease me like you saw Bigfoot and didn't get a picture of it because I'm going to be really pissed.
I didn't have my thermal with me. No, so oh my goodness. So I agree with all of that. I mean, and so it just is. I love the scope, and I want to be clear. I still love my Trail XP50. It's why I still got it right here. I haven't gotten rid of it. I want to kind of wrap our comparison between the two because again, it is something that we want to talk about in this show. And I know we're not drawing a big distinction between them, but again, that's why I say it's an incremental upgrade. It's just it's a different scope with the design and some of the features, the battery setups, those things. So when it comes down to which one is better, this is going to be the typical cop-out answer that nobody wants. But I think it depends on what you want. If you tell me I have no preference over either design, means nothing to me, I don't care, then I'd say buy the Thermion. It's the newer scope. You get a little more magnification, which I see as a benefit. I don't think going from 1.6 to 2 is going to hurt anybody. I mean, unless you're really just shooting everything at 20, 30 yards, I don't think you'll ever be upset by a little extra magnification. So my choice between the two is going to be the Thermion for, I think some of the extra features, like we said, the colored crosshairs, the reticle options, the little extra bump in magnification. I think the image quality is, I don't know, I hate to put some number on it, 10 to 15% better through the eyepiece. So it's just, I mean, if you don't have any preference, that's the one I would say to buy. It's also going to work very well on a bolt gun as well as an AR-15. Now, are you dumb to buy a Trail? Not at all. If you like that design and you like that look, buy it. I think it's just fine. It's a tried and true scope that's been around for 2.5 years, and the bugs are worked out of it. It's just a great system. So if you like that look and that design, buy it. I will say this: there is going to come a point. Now, again, we're talking about this in September 2019. There will be a point when somebody's listening to this video that you can no longer get a Trail XP50. Okay? That day is coming. We don't know when that time is. Is it the end of this year? Is it the beginning of 2020? Is it a year from now? We don't know the date, but we do know that it is coming where the Trails won't be made. I suspect, I mean, a crystal ball in this, from what I'm hearing, it's going to be sometime in 2020. Probably, I mean, I'm really guessing now, but I'd say, maybe late spring, early summer, maybe before then. I don't know. But there is going to be a point that you're listening to this video or watching it, and you're going to say, where do I get a Trail? So they are going away. But as for now, I think it's still a viable option. You just need to choose which one you like the best, and you're not going to go wrong with either one of them. And they're the exact same price at $49.99.
What do you say to the person that we've had call in from time to time and say, you know what, I like the trail, I want the trail, but I'm concerned about buying something that is probably going to be discontinued in the next 12 months. What do you say to somebody like that?
I say you're still going to get the 3-year warranty. And if Pulsar can't fix it for some reason, if it's something that's not reasonable for them to fix under warranty, then I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to upgrade you to a Thermion. I mean, that's just I don't think that's any secret. It's what any company has to do once a product is discontinued. That doesn't mean if they discontinue that thing in 2 months, that on a month later you have a problem, they're automatically going to upgrade you. I mean, they're going to be able to service them for a while.
Right.
But I think it depends on your personality. There's a lot of people who greatly value buying a known product that is tried and true and has been tested again for over 2 years. And if that's you, then I'd say buy the Trail. But I personally am the guy who I look at things, and I don't want to be the first guy to buy something and find out that that's junk. But I think the Thermions have been out long enough now, and enough of the XM models and all that we're seeing that they're very dependable, good optics. I like to buy things. If I'm going to buy something, I don't like to buy the old model unless I'm getting a deal on it. Okay, that's just me personally. Right. I don't like to buy something that's going away unless I'm getting some value for it, or it's got something that I really do like. And as of right now, the price is the same, and Pulsar has told me this changes, okay, but this is what we've been told. There will not be a price drop on the trails before they're discontinued. Now, They reserve the right, obviously, to change their mind at any point, but we've been told that over and over. There will not be. And I can tell you this, we're still buying them, and we're paying the exact same price as we are for Thermions. So there's no price drop on our end, and they're telling us that there's not going to be a retail price drop. So, again, I think it comes down to your personality. Do you want to, if you're spending this kind of money, do you want to have the latest, greatest that may not necessarily be any better, but it's just a newer model? Or do you want to have something that you like the look and design of, and you feel comfortable with its reliability? But either way, Pulsar is going to be there, and you got a 3-year warranty. So
right. So rounding out the review of the Thermion XP50, I'm going to give my likes again. Just kind of reiterating what Jason said and what we talked about in the past, I do feel like the Thermion XP50 has a slightly better picture image. It does for sure have a better video quality, the video that comes off the scope, the mounting options, and the ability. I've got a 17 HMR bolt gun that I'm going to mount that Thermion pretty soon and go out and get rid of a bunch of raccoons that have been tearing up some bait holes here lately. So, that's going to be pretty cool to be able to do that for the first time and haven't been able to do it. Really, as far as dislikes, I didn't have any dislikes. I've done the full review on the Hans ETX YouTube channel already. I didn't have any dislikes at all, really, other than the fact of I do prefer, we talked about this in the past, I do prefer the knob on the Trail for the focus as opposed to turning the whole rubber ring on the Thermion. I mean, the focus on the Thermion XP50 works great. It works fine. I just prefer the Trail. But that's the only thing I think that I preferred over the Trail than I did the Thermion. So, but thank you all. Hey,
let me. Hey, hang on. I want to ask you one question, because this is something we didn't even get into, and people are going to ask. What do you believe? I know you've been using it a bunch, so I'll just let you say.
I've killed a bunch of hogs with it. Yeah, I've been using it for a long time.
What do you think the ideal range is? So let's say that for this scope, if a guy says, he's going to be out hunting hogs or coyotes, what would you say that the sweet spot for this scope is, and what would you say is about it? Normal nights hunting conditions. What would you say?
Man, I tell you, I shot a hog at 20 yards with it. I shot a hog at 150 something yards with it, and really, with the Pulsar scopes, again, one of the advantages of the Pulsar scopes is the picture-in-picture display, and that helps you with the longer shots of being able to zoom in without losing your full field of view on your screen, but being able to take longer shots. The sweet spot, for a 2-power, I think is going to be that 50, 75, even 100 yards out there is going to be okay. But I don't know, 75 yards or so.
Yeah,
50 yards.
I agree. I just wanted to see what you think. I would say that. I think that the unit is 20 yards is fine, and I would say 200 yards is definitely doable. But I think you're going to want to keep most of your shots at 150 or less, is my opinion. If you're going to be shooting a lot at 200 or over, I think you're going to want more magnification.
That's we get a lot of people that call in and say, "Hey, what range do you sight your rifles in at?" I sight every single rifle, no matter what caliber it is, at 50 yards, and and I shoot anything from a 308 to a 6.5 Grendel, 6.5 Creedmoor, 223. I sight everything in at 50 yards. Most of the shots are at 50 yards, but I shoot hogs and coyotes at further ranges than that. But with the Thermion and the Trail, never had an issue with the longer ranges. Again, with the picture-in-picture display, it really is. It's almost like cheating, where you don't have to, zoom in your picture and lose your whole field of view. In being able to take long shots and keep that larger screen up if they run.
Last question for you: what do you believe is a reasonable, comfortable identification range of, let's say, a coyote? That's a smaller animal normally than a hog. How far out do you think you can look at it? And I'm not saying you're going to shoot it, but you're going to look and say, that is a coyote, and I am 95% sure. How far?
That's that question is so subjective, I think, because you and I hunt so much that we know. Okay,
I know where you're going with this. You're right. It's there's so much experience and so much the conditions and how tall is the grass and how. I mean, I know you're right, but but reasonably speaking,
At 300, 400, 500 yards, a coyote looks so much like a deer, it's not even funny. And you're like, how is that even possible? But it's true. You really have to know how a coyote moves, how a deer moves. Hogs are a little bit different. They're a little bit easier. But I'd say realistically, to know, man, that's just such a tough question.
I know.
I'd say, ID range, okay,
a hog. Does that make it easier?
Yeah, 500 yards or so. I would say is a good ID range there.
Well, I'll say this: last night, I had cows out there in my pasture, and I was looking at them, and I looked over at about 300 yards, and there was 2 deer laying down in the grass, and I'm telling you, they're deer. I would say that I was 95% sure. I mean, I didn't even have any question, really, to be honest with you. But I guess if you put me on the stand, I'd say that I'm 95% sure those were 2 deer laying down at 300 yards. All I could see was a little bit of their back and their head sticking up. And I could tell, in my opinion, those aren't cows. Those aren't calves. Those aren't. So, again, a lot of that just comes from experience and kind of, what they should look like. But, yeah.
It's many of long walks, 300 and 400 yard walks just to find out that it was just a cow. So it is a lot of experience.
Oh, I know.
I know. You get out there and you're like, oh dang, it's just a cow. So you want to get good at that and make extra sure. But hey, if y'all have any questions, first thing you need to do, give Mr. Jason Robertson a call at Outdoor Legacy Gear. It's 877-350-1818. If you want to order the Thermion, if you want to order the Trail XP50, if you want to order the brand new mounts for the Thermion, give us a call. Get on the website, outdoorlegacygear.com. Thank you for checking out the review part of the video and the podcast today. Leave a comment. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that kind of fun stuff. But right now, we're going to get into vacation talk because, like I said, we produced some shows that we put up and made live while Jason was going to be gone on vacation. But he was in New Mexico for 2 weeks, Red River, New Mexico, and I get a phone call from you. I don't know if you called me or I called you, and and you said you were towing your Polaris Ranger on a trailer up there, and you said I can see that one corner of it's flapping. So, and you were worried that the roof was going to just rip right off driving, 75 miles an hour from Texas to New Mexico.
Well,
so the question is, did it make it there and did it make it back?
It did.
Okay, good.
I'll tell you this, and the funny thing was I ate lunch with some buddies the day before I left, and one of these guys, he hauls his. They've got a Ranger or maybe a mule, but they haul it out to West Texas dove hunting all the time. And he told me, he said, "Hey, you got to either take the roof off or you got to put like a strap over that roof." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "It's going to blow off." He's like, "We've lost them before." He's like, "You got to put a strap over it." And I was like, "I'm not putting a strap over my roof." And he's like, "Oh no, you're going to lose it." And so I was like, "I'm not doing it." So the joke amongst all the other guys was, we'll never know if he loses it because he's never going to come back and admit that the roof blew off. But no, I tell you what happened. I had that thing strapped down good, the whole Ranger. It's a Ranger Crew, so it's pretty long. And man, it rode great. But I got out somewhere. I don't even remember where I was. I was somewhere up in North Texas, probably. I'll tell you what, I was in Canyon up by Amarillo, Paladera Canyon. And I got up there and got out, and I just like walked around it, checking the straps, reached up there and hit the roof, and it vibrated. I'm like, what was that? So I'm looking, and anyway, I realized there was like a screw or two that I guess had come out. And the problem is that Polaris, in their infinite wisdom, uses some kind of a weird little proprietary screw that's like a star head. So there's nothing that you would have or could find anywhere else.
Right.
And in their defense, the way the roof design is that it actually has got some plastic. It kind of clips in, and then the screws hold it. So it was actually fine. I watched it. I mean, if I'd had any fear it was going to really come off, I'd have done something. But I just watched it, and it was fine. And then I got up there, and I said, well, I'll just find a Polaris dealership. They're going to have – these screws are all over this Ranger. They're going to have them. Come to find out, Polaris dealerships are not a common thing in northern New Mexico. The closest one was 2 hours away in Santa Fe. I'll tell you this, from Amarillo, which I didn't want to go into Amarillo to find a dealership, from Amarillo all the way to Red River, New Mexico, which is 5 hours, there are no Polaris dealerships, and the closest one we ever got to was Santa Fe, which was over 2 hours away.
So well, the second question, did you, with your thermal monocular, because I know you took it, did you video a bear or Sasquatch? And do you have video that you can share with the listeners?
If I did, it would be top secret because I'd be going to sell it to Inside Edition. But no,
Inside Edition. You're showing your age. I think that show was canceled in 1996.
Well, I used to think it was great. 2020, Barbara Walters, Hugh Downs.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that showing my age now?
She's in her prime right now. What are you talking about?
Okay. No, so I did take it, and I did see a bear. I did not see it with the thermal, unfortunately. We were eating supper on our back porch one night, and a bear ran by. I did video a mule deer up on the side of a mountain running around one night, or bouncing around the way they kind of run. But no, I did not. But now, real quick, I'm a side note here. Speaking of this, the Bigfoot, I sold a scope to some guys who were Bigfoot hunters this year. I did, and they're very serious about it. And anyway, I got a notification on Facebook the other day. They had tagged me in, and one of the guys was sitting there in an Outdoor Legacy shirt, and they were doing an interview about some Bigfoot sightings that they had seen. And it was kind of a preview for something they're going to be doing. So I'm really hoping that they get some Bigfoot footage out of the scope that I sold them. So I don't know, but there's
Well, I tell you what, we are glad to have you back, Jason, because you are this show. I mean,
I want to be clear on something for two things for sure. Number one, I do appreciate Hans and my office manager, Michaela, because they did a ton of work while I was gone. And I also want to let people know that I didn't just sit around up there and bask in the mountains. I mean, I did. It was wonderful, a great vacation. But, as long as I have cell phone access and internet access, then I was on the phone and working as well. But it was nice to get away, and I do appreciate Hans taking a whole bunch of phone calls while I was gone, because it was a much needed vacation.
You hadn't paid me yet, so wait and hold that apology till then. So,
all right, we need to wrap the show up. So,
all right. So,
go.
Hey, everybody, talking about wrapping the show. Everybody, go subscribe to us and follow us, please, on all the social medias: Instagram, Facebook. You can find the Late Night Vision Show everywhere. But also go check out our website, www.thelatenightVisionShow.com. Also, we need suggestions and topics for shows. We love getting all of the suggestions, and we use a lot of them. So you can email us at thelatenightvision@gmail.com. Go check out Outdoor Legacy Gear, as well as Hans ETX on YouTube and Instagram. And, go do it.
Folks, we appreciate y'all sticking with us. I can't believe when Hans said this was number 70. We've been doing this for 70 weeks straight, but it's enjoyable. We appreciate you. We can't do it without you. We wouldn't do it without you, because otherwise it's just he and I talking to ourselves, and we do that all day anyway. Just keep subscribing, watching every week. Tell your friends about it. And as always, if there's anything we can help them with, give us a call at 877-350-1818 at Outdoor Legacy, and we will be glad to help you. But until next week, stay safe in the fields and keep making those bacon pancakes.